There is a version of you that only exists in a filing cabinet. Not the version who shows up to brunch looking like she has it together. Not the version whose skincare fridge is fully stocked and whose closet smells like cedar and confidence. The other version. The one who exists on paper. The one who determines what happens to your apartment, your savings, your child, your body if life ever throws something at you that you did not see coming. Most women have never met her. And that is not a character flaw. That is not a lack of intelligence or ambition. It is simply what happens when a culture spends decades teaching women to be beautiful, be agreeable, be effortless, be soft, and quietly forgets to teach them to be protected. Here is the thing nobody says out loud. Softness without structure is not peace. It is exposure. A woman can have the candles, the Sunday reset, the green juice, the healing era fully activated, and still be one hospital visit away from financial chaos because nobody ever sat her down and said, "Girl, you need a folder." Not a vision board. A folder. So today we are doing something a little different. We are not talking about budgeting apps or how to stop buying lattes, because frankly, the latte was never the problem. We're talking about the 7 documents that quietly determine whether an emergency becomes a setback or becomes a full unraveling of the life you have built. And we're going to talk about why so many financially successful, intelligent, self-aware women still do not have them. Let me paint you a picture first. Her name does not matter because she is a composite of 100 women who have sent messages just like this one. She is 31. She has a good job in marketing, a decent apartment in a mid-sized city, a savings account she is proud of, and a boyfriend of 4 years who she assumes, in the soft, hopeful way we assume things about people we love, will always be there. Then one Thursday night, he collapses in the kitchen. Undiagnosed heart condition. Nobody saw it coming, not even him. She spends 3 days in a hospital waiting room learning a brutal lesson in real time. Because they were not married, she is not allowed in certain rooms. She cannot access his accounts to help pay for anything. She does not know his passwords, his insurance information, or where his important documents even are. The relationship was real. The love was real. But on paper, legally, financially, she was a stranger. That is not a story to scare you. That is a story to wake you up. Because here is a truth most people will not say plainly. Emergencies do not ask if you are ready. They do not check your astrology, your income bracket, or how put together your life looks online. They simply arrive. And the only real defense against chaos is not more hustle, more manifesting, or more hoping. It is documentation. Cold, boring, unbothered paperwork that does the emotional heavy lifting for you when you are too devastated to think straight. This is financial feminism in its most unglamorous form. Not the version with the champagne flute and the stock portfolio screenshot. The version where a woman protects her own peace by making sure her life is legible to the people who might one day need to step in and save it. Let's talk about document number 1. The emergency contact and medical information sheet. This sounds almost too simple to matter, which is exactly why most women skip it. But imagine this. You are unconscious. Maybe from an accident, maybe from something as ordinary as a bad allergic reaction. The paramedics need to know your blood type, your allergies, your medications, who to call. If that information lives only in your head, it dies with your ability to speak. A single page, updated once a year, with your medical history and emergency contacts, is the difference between someone advocating for you immediately and someone frantically guessing while precious time disappears. This is not dramatic. This is basic maintenance of your own existence. Document number 2, and this one is deeply personal to the soft life conversation. A will. Here is an uncomfortable statistic that tends to shock women when they hear it. The majority of American adults do not have a will, and the number is even higher among women under 40. Not because they do not care about their future, but because writing a will feels like inviting death into a life that is currently, finally, going pretty well. It feels almost superstitious, like acknowledging mortality will summon it. But girl, a will is not about dying. A will is about control. It is the document that says, if something happens to me, here is what happens to my things, my money, my pets, my digital accounts, my beautiful little apartment full of things I chose with intention. Without a will, the state decides. Not your best friend, who knows you would want your jewelry to go to your niece. Not your partner, you never legally married. The state. A stranger with a stamp, applying a generic formula to a life that was never generic. Quiet luxury is not just about what you wear. It is about how much control you retain over your own life, even in the scenarios you cannot control. Document number 3. A power of attorney. This is the document that lets someone you trust make financial decisions on your behalf if you become incapacitated and cannot make them yourself. Picture a car accident, a coma, a serious surgery gone wrong. Without this document, even your own mother or your own husband may need to go through a lengthy, expensive court process just to pay your rent or access your accounts while you recover. With it, someone you have chosen, someone who knows you, can step in immediately and keep your life running while you heal. This is not about assuming the worst will happen. This is about refusing to let the worst, if it ever happens, take more from you than it has to. Now here is where I want to pause and address something because I can feel some of you getting a little heavy right now. This is not a video meant to spiral you into anxiety about worst-case scenarios. This is the opposite. There is a specific kind of calm that comes from being prepared. Psychologists call it a sense of self-efficacy, the belief that you have some control over your own outcomes, and it is one of the strongest predictors of resilience during a crisis. Women who have these documents in place are not thinking about them every day. They file them away and go back to living their actual lives, dinner parties and career wins and Sunday morning matcha, except now there is a quiet floor beneath them that was not there before. That is the real definition of soft life. Not the absence of structure. The presence of enough structure that softness becomes safe. Document number 4. A healthcare proxy, sometimes called a healthcare power of attorney. This is different from the general power of attorney because it specifically names who gets to make medical decisions for you if you cannot make them yourself. Who decides whether to continue treatment. Who speaks to the doctors when you cannot speak for yourself. Without this document, hospitals often default to next of kin by legal definition, which may not reflect your actual relationships. Best friends, long-term partners you're not married to, chosen family, they can all be locked out of a decision that should have been theirs to help make. Let's talk about document number 5, because this one connects directly to something happening online right now. A living will, also called an advance healthcare directive. There has been a quiet but growing conversation among women in their late 20s and 30s about something called death cleaning, borrowed loosely from the Scandinavian concept, except this generation has turned it into something almost aesthetic. Decluttering not just your closet but your entire digital and legal footprint. Part of that trend, when you strip away the aesthetic packaging, is genuinely wise. A living will states your wishes about medical treatment if you are ever in a condition where you cannot communicate them yourself. It removes an impossible burden from the people who love you, because in the worst moment of their lives, they will not have to guess what you would have wanted. They will already know. This is one of the most quietly loving things you can do for the people around you. Not flowers, not gifts. Clarity, prepared in advance, so grief never has to share space with uncertainty. Document number 6. Insurance policy information, all in one place. Health insurance, renters or homeowners insurance, auto insurance, life insurance if you have it, disability insurance if you have it. Here is the pattern I want you to notice. Most women have some of these policies. Very few women have them organized anywhere accessible. They live scattered across old emails, forgotten folders, apps you downloaded once and never opened again. When an emergency happens, you do not have the bandwidth to go digging through your inbox searching for a policy number while also trying to hold yourself together. There is a term circulating online right now, financially attractive, usually used somewhat playfully to describe someone who has their money together. But the real version of financially attractive is not a six-figure salary. It is a woman who, in a crisis, can locate every important document about her own life within minutes because she already did the work of organizing it while things were calm. That is not girl math. That is girl strategy. If you are enjoying this conversation about the quiet, unglamorous side of financial power, the part nobody posts about but everybody eventually needs, go ahead and subscribe. Every video here is about helping women build lives that are not just beautiful, but genuinely protected underneath the beauty. Document number 7, and this might be the most overlooked one of all. A master document of digital access. Think about how much of your actual life exists behind a password right now. Your bank accounts, your email, which is the master key to almost everything else because most password resets go through it. Your investment accounts, your social media, which for some women is also a business. Subscriptions quietly draining money every month that nobody else knows exist. If something happened to you tomorrow, could the people who love you even access what they would need to help you, or to close things down properly, or to keep a small business you built from simply evaporating along with you? A secure, updated list of your accounts and how to access them, stored somewhere safe, is the modern equivalent of leaving a key under the mat, except infinitely more important. Now, let's talk about why so many women avoid all 7 of these documents, because the resistance itself is worth examining. Part of it is magical thinking, the quiet superstition that preparing for a disaster somehow invites one. Part of it is simple avoidance, because sitting down to plan for your own incapacity or death is emotionally heavier than sitting down to plan a vacation. And part of it, if we are being fully honest, is that a lot of women were never given permission to think of themselves as the main character of their own financial story. They were taught to be supportive, to be the safety net for everyone else, to hold the household together emotionally while somehow assuming someone else, a husband, a father, a future partner, would handle the paperwork. That belief system is not just outdated. It is dangerous. Because the data is clear that women are increasingly the ones navigating financial emergencies alone, whether through divorce, widowhood, or simply choosing to build a life independently. Women now make up a significant and growing share of primary breadwinners in American households, and yet studies on financial literacy consistently show a confidence gap between men and women, not necessarily a confidence gap, meaning many women who are perfectly capable of understanding these documents simply were never invited to sit at the table where they get discussed. So consider this your invitation. Let's go back to her for a moment, the woman from the beginning of this video, sitting in that hospital waiting room. What made her story so painful was not the emergency itself. Life throws emergencies at everyone. That part is not optional. What made it painful was the powerlessness layered on top of the grief. The not knowing, the waiting for someone else to explain what she had every right to already understand about her own life and the life she shared with someone she loved. Now imagine a different version of that night. Same emergency, same fear, same fluorescent hospital lighting. Except this time, she knows exactly where the important documents are. She has access to what she needs. She is not fighting a system while also trying to survive an emotional collapse. She still feels everything. The fear does not disappear, but she is not doing it while blindfolded. That is the entire point. These documents do not remove pain from a crisis. They remove confusion from a crisis, and confusion is often the heaviest part. Here is a small practical way to begin because I never want to leave you with a mountain and no first step. Pick one afternoon. Not a whole weekend. One single afternoon. Make a cup of something warm. Put on a playlist that makes you feel like the woman you are becoming, and simply gather what already exists. Insurance cards, account logins, the name of your doctor. That is the beginning of your folder. You do not need a lawyer for step 1. You need intention and about 90 minutes. For the will, the power of attorney, and the healthcare proxy, many states offer low-cost or even free legal resources, and there are reputable online platforms that walk you through creating legally valid documents without requiring an expensive attorney. Though for more complex assets, a short consultation with an actual estate attorney is worth every dollar. This is not an expense. This is an investment in your own peace of mind, and peace of mind, unlike most things we spend money on, tends to appreciate rather than depreciate over time. There is a phrase that keeps circulating in different forms across women's spaces online lately, something about how healing is not just emotional, it is logistical. I think that captures this entire conversation perfectly. You can do the therapy. You can do the journaling. You can do the boundaries and the self-work and the healing era in full. But if your actual life, the paperwork version of you, is still disorganized and unprotected, some part of your nervous system will always know it. Some part of you will always be quietly bracing for the moment everything falls apart because nothing is written down to catch you. So here is your soft life reframe for today. Preparedness is not the opposite of femininity. It is not cold or masculine or paranoid. It is one of the most elegant forms of self-respect there is. A woman who has her documents in order is not a woman who expects the worst. She is a woman who has decided that whatever happens to her, she will still be the one in control of her own story. That is not fear. That is authorship. Because one day, hopefully many years from now, someone who loves you may have to open a folder with your name on it. Let them find clarity instead of chaos. Let them find a woman who thought of them even in the moments she could not speak for herself. Let the paperwork say what your presence always said, that you were someone who took care of the people around her, right down to the very last detail. That is what real softness protects. Not fragility. Legacy.